Welcome to the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast with your host, Mike DeHaan and Dan Austin. From wins, losses, horror stories, and tactics for optimizing your business, Mike and Dan take a real, uncensored deep dive into the ins and outs of running a full-time real estate investment and wholesaling business.
Have the clap.
We're going to keep that in. We're going to keep that in. What's going on, guys?
That's out of context.
Out of context. What's going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast. Man, you threw me for a loop with that one. I mean, like to start, he was going to do the clap test on his mic and then decides he wants to start talking about STDs. But hey,
I did not go that way. No, that's just how it is.
Yeah. But anyway, we are approaching at the end of the summer, believe it or not, in August. And things, it's interesting. We have seen I feel like a full real estate cycle almost this past little bit. We've had things go super cold. Suddenly things are absurdly hot. We currently have some people right now that are begging us to buy their houses in these weird sort of roundabout ways. It's going to be super interesting to see what happens here over this next little bit. And one of the biggest things that people keep asking me on these different podcasts and stuff I've been on a lot of different podcasts recently are do I think the market's going to crash? And I mean, ultimately, I don't think it is, because people are starting to figure out ways to game the system. You know, there's some crafty stuff that people are doing. I mean, the government's already made it so you can buy a house regardless of what the price is. You know, you can buy a house with 3% down, or, do all this other sort of stuff. You can get a VA loan if you're a veteran, which is a large number of people that are the home buying demographic right now. Mm-hmm. And people were being priced out because the high price points and the interest rates are making things expensive. But now you have all these people out there, all these realtors that figured it out. They're people live off of monthly budgets. So what if instead of having to drop our home price $100,000, we just go ahead and offer $20,000 to buy down people's loans to 3%,
and increase your purchase price by 20,
exactly,
which doesn't affect the monthly budget that much.
Yeah, at all. Or even if they don't do that, let's say they're selling for $450. In order to get the same purchase price, they have to sell it for $350. Even if they sell it for $450 and the seller gives a $20,000 credit,
right? It's still more of a net. I get what you're saying.
It's still a huge net profit for the seller, and it's gaming the system. And all of a sudden, that person on a down payment, sure, at $350, they have to bring 3%, 3.5%. What's that, 10, 11 grand? For $450, that's 16. People can figure out $6,000 versus $800 a month, which would screw people over most of the time.
Absolutely.
I
don't know. I don't feel like it is interesting because there's some people scrambling on the investor side of things, but then the solid buyers that we work with are buying stuff from us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're still doing work.
Right? Yeah. With the good deals we've had, they've been easy to sell. I mean, the only stuff that's been hard to sell is honestly the kind of janky deals that we've had.
Which honestly probably shouldn't be able to sell them in any market anyways, right? But we were able to.
Last year, for sure, we'd sell them all day because people were desperate for stuff. But that's fine. Yeah. But then we just put ourselves in a position where we can take them down or we can monetize them in some other way. Whether that's by putting it into a seller finance deal with prolonged lending or things like that, so you can monetize these different opportunities when you have a motivated seller.
Right.
But it's just super weird because especially we're seeing our, the investor, I think we talked about this in the last podcast too, the investor presence, the other companies, a lot of people who've gotten themselves into big trouble and they're starting to disappear, here locally. And I'm sure the same thing's happening everywhere, but
possibly, again, last week we had 6, we had contracts in escrow to assign in 6 states.
Yeah, that's true.
So, there's still some OGs out there crushing it, right?
Yeah.
They're buying our deals in 6 states, 6 markets. So
that's true.
But I definitely think there's some people just getting thrown out of the market.
Mm-hmm. Especially if they've made kind of sketchy decisions and they rode the line a little bit close as things started to turn over.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is though too, right now, just with how sellers are, a lot of people still kind of frozen. We're having to just do some weird stuff with some of our deals, man. Not weird, shady, but just weird in terms of what is the situation? So we talked about the deaf and mute lady. So she and her love interest. I don't know.
She has a love interest.
She has a love interest, and they want
Or
to buy a
past love
mobile.
interest.
No, the past one's dead, bro. She
okay.
got a new one.
Okay, yeah.
But
Gotcha.
they like want to move into a mobile home, and they can't drive. Trying to figure out how to get them over to this mobile home park. So our act manager James, he's like, let's just send her an Uber. Like, yeah.
Bingo.
I'm sure some random Uber driver is going to be stoked to roll up to this ghetto ass crack house and pick up these really questionable people and take them to a mobile home park and then wait there and then drive them back.
You should have probably hired a taxi, not an Uber. A taxi driver is used to that.
No, dude, we should get like a limo, like a
proper, yeah. Not a proper limo, like a really beat up limo with like hubcaps.
No. We should get like one of those limo Hummers because those are like extra trashy.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, just give them an experience. The driver will be more comfortable with it.
A bottle of champagne. Oof.
Oh man,
get some Brut in there. They would have a ball.
Yeah, it'll be. I mean,
it's like I'm pretty sure, I don't know the name, like one of those real estate shows, like Selling LA or whatever. What are they called? I can't remember. Like where they got like Josh Altman's one of the guys, right?
Yeah,
one of the high end luxury real estate agents. It'll be like that. It's like that kind of experience, except for it's going to be called Selling Spokane. Trailer
right.
Edition.
Selling Spokane, the crackhead edition.
Yeah,
right. That's so funny. But yeah, so we got that, and then we have one guy who keeps calling us from like random phones, and he keeps telling us that he wants to sell his house, but every time we call the number back, the person on the other line's like, yeah, I have no idea who that person is. He gets walked up to me and asked to use my phone. So we've been trying to get a hold of this guy, and ultimately what we're doing, we decided we're going to get a burner phone and like go to the house and like leave it there and see if we can get him to
tape it to the door.
That.
Yeah.
So we can at least have a consistent number that we have.
That's probably what he's worried of. He's probably running from the government.
Probably.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if one of our sellers was hiding from the government, and he needed to move around and use other people's phones, and he didn't want to be tracked. I mean,
yeah. God, I know. So we have that one. Yeah, we have another one right now with these people. It's a super nice house, and the lady, I've met her, you've met her, but James basically described her as
I did go walk
classic, like I've made myself house poor, but I have big eyelashes and big toenails, and I like to talk about how expensive my house is kind of person.
Big toenails?
I didn't
look at her toenails.
Fingernails.
What are you into, dude?
I'm not me, dude. Not me. This is what I'm getting secondhand. I don't meet with sellers. I don't leave my house Monday through Friday.
That's right.
But like we have almost tried to make a point of like not buying this deal, but
I know, like I've tried to not buy it. Like you're absolutely right. But she wants us to.
They're literally begging us to, and with the price they need to be at, we can't necessarily pay cash for it because they only bought it like last year, and they can't lose money because they can't afford to pay anything off. So we're doing an novation agreement, and like they're giving us power of attorney over their house, over everything about it. So we're basically going to be the owners of it and lead the entire transaction. But like,
the problem is the novation's like me hiring a carpet installer and sending our contractor over there to install like a couple items. It's like a nice house. It's weird.
Yeah. And so what a novation basically is we are partnering with them to flip the house. Yeah. And the reason it needs to be flipped is because they have all these like half-assed DIY projects or half-finished stuff that they like started and then quit, probably ran out of money. Yeah. And they had this like, when we first talked to them, they had this illusion of like, oh yeah, you'll be able to do super minor stuff and sell this thing for like 600,000.
Right. And
we're like, well, then why don't you do that? And they're like, we don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, well, I mean, if you want, like, we could do it for you, and then we could go and sell it for you. And they were like, yeah, that'd be great. And so that's basically what we're doing. But then over the course of it, they've tried to keep weaseling in all this stuff of being like, well, we have a buyer that's going to pay $575. This house we're going to list at $499 and pray that it sells.
Yeah. You and I we have a running bet on this one.
You think it's going to sell for below that?
We got to
think it's going to sell for $499 or higher.
Yeah.
But I mean, but they want to list it for like 600 because they're just disillusioned.
And they said there's comps are in 800s, and I'm like, wait, what?
And then at one point they had like a buyer that's like, it's like, oh yeah, he's going to buy the house. You just need to fix it up and we're going to sell them for $575. And we're like, okay, well, can we get a purchase and sale from them? And then we'll fix it up. And then literally 30 minutes later, they're like, oh, he decided there's too many stairs in this house. It's a rancher. There's like there's like a step up into the house.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's it.
Like, they came up with, yeah.
Oh my God. So we're just dealing with insane people.
Yeah.
Like,
just weird. And they look normal. These people at least look normal, right? But yeah, we've tried every which way to be like, why are we even wasting our time here? Like, we could make money, but there's just no reason for us to make money. And they just keep coming back. I don't know.
I know. Yeah. I mean, and the way we're setting it up, like we're basically just structuring our profit into it so that we're secured. So, and then whatever actually happens with their situation doesn't really affect.
Yeah. So we actually on this one, which we haven't done in the past, we actually just writing in like we want X amount for profit. And then our cost, which we budgeted, you know, it's literally like a week's worth of labor because they actually have all the materials on site, which is the crazy thing to finish it. So a week's worth of labor. And then of course our commissions for selling it, cause I'll be listing it. Which is, we didn't do that in the past. Like we've done to where we get anything above a certain amount. And what do you think is better? I want it, like your opinion. What do you think is better? So say the last time we had it fixed at anything above 400, we would get, we sold the house for 500. I think.
Well, I think in that we sold for 525. So I think in that market condition, that was absolutely in our benefit because we had a strong reason to believe it was going to sell for more than we were expecting. Right. Now, in this case where it's not as hot, I think it's in our benefit to, you know, give up less upside, but have our profit fixed into the deal.
And then that's why we would put a POA, a power of attorney over it so that we can ensure the home sells.
Exactly. So we can't like fix it up and then they decide they're not going to work with us anymore. Yeah. They decide they're not going to go through a transaction. At that point, our only recourse would be to put a lien on the house, something like that for our cost, for whatever our arrangement was. But by having a power of attorney over them on the sale of the house, we will actually go to signing on their behalf and push the whole thing through and be in charge of the entire transaction. And even though they will still be on title, they will be forfeiting their decision-making ability regarding the house transaction.
Which is honestly in their case probably good. they obviously can't make great decisions.
Oh my God. It's just fascinating.
Yeah. Weird sellers as always. What else is going on?
Yeah. I mean, every single one's different though. Like it's amazing to me that, you know, we've been doing this for 2.5 years now and you still just never know what these people are going to come out.
I know it is crazy.
Yeah. So at that, we got a lot of seller finance ones we're talking about with people that are looking to exit properties that they know have inflated in value and want to keep getting cash flow, don't want to pay taxes. If you guys aren't versed on seller finance, you should definitely start learning.
Get versed.
If you want to learn more about that, shoot me a DM on Instagram and I'll try to give it to you in a really short version of it. But yeah, I mean, overall, man, we got that. We got our cabins finally closing.
Oh yeah.
We got the funky duplex that you're super excited about that you posted your on Instagram about how sad you are that you have to flip it the other day. Was that yesterday you posted that?
Yeah, that's my like.
I don't want to have to flip this house.
I don't want to freaking do the work, man. It's work. It's work. Yeah,
it's not work.
It's not a duplex either. It's a house with an ADU. You call me up. We got a duplex. I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. It's a house with an ADU. It's still a cool house, and technically, I mean, it can be a duplex because they can both be rented separately. So I will give you that. They both are separately metered, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's just one of those projects where I haven't really wanted to flip it from the beginning because it's big. And when you're the reason why is because when it's big, it's in a pretty good neighborhood. It's a pretty nice house in general. Like when it was built nice and it's been okay, like maintained pretty well, but it needs upgrades. And so big means a lot of square feet. Nicer means you got to go a little more high end. So what you got to do is you got to like think through things. Like you can't just do the flipper specials. And then, so when you're doing nicer finishes, nicer things that are more pulled together, more designed, and you have a lot of square feet, it's like, oh God, then you have to really look at your budget and say, you know, even $1 a foot extra swings your budget a little bit. You know what I mean? And so you got to just pay attention to that sort of stuff when you're making decisions, as opposed to showing up and being like, this is a, 1,800 square foot, 3-bed, 2-bath, bread and butter flip, where I'm like, we already have the flooring in storage. We already have the paint in storage. I know exactly what it's going to cost. There's no way there's going to be any cost overruns on this. I don't have to think about it. Our guy goes in there, sprays everything, throws down floors, puts in some cabinets and countertops, and we walk out. Like, that is simple. This is just more effort and more stress upon me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I know you're also a petty person like I am. So think about it this way. The nicer we make that house, the more we can sell it for.
You know.
And then that really shitty previous owner who was just the bitch.
Yeah, I know.
She was like the worst kind of person.
Yeah, I know.
You know, just like liar, deceiver, like hiding stuff. She left us the fridge full of like rotting meat.
So bad. It was so bad.
Even though we were super nice to her.
We were very nice to her.
And we bought the house after she called me during Christmas dinner with my family and was like, do you want to buy this house? I chose it.
And you were like, yes, I do.
We supported all this bullshit. And then she was real nasty after the thing was immediately done. So just think, she probably still follows that house on Zillow. If we can sell that house for a ton of money, she's going to be really
absolutely upset. Yeah. No, I agree. And there's a few buyers from our buyers list that I'm going to call them up and be like, hey, did you see what that thing sold for? You know, I had one guy walking it who's like, and you know, he's not blocked to my number because I want to say nasty things to him when he texts me. But that he's like, yeah, the roof's leaking. And I'm like, what are you talking about? The roof's leaking? Like, he's like, yeah, man, I can tell here. He's like trying to like make things up. So I told our guy, I was like, get up on the roof. You know, like, guy told me the roof's leaking. I haven't personally walked it. It's like, the roof's not leaking. I was like, that bastard.
Just lying.
Yeah, like coming up with every excuse. So, you know, so there'll be a few people I'll call on this one.
Yeah,
just to rub it in.
Oh my God, it's just the way it is, man. Networking right now. What a transition to our educational topic for today. I have no idea where we're going to go with this, but this is something that just keeps coming up where a lot of people are talking about like how to start meeting people in this space, you know, looking at how Bigger Pockets says to do it. All these other people say to do it. Just go to like a meetup and sit there and hang out. And that is not what we think is the best way. So we are going to talk about what we think is the best way to take advantage of your connections and meet people in, you know, the real estate investing space. If that's what you want to get into. And no, again, don't know entirely know where we're going to go, but really quick bit here about the Instant Investor Program, and then we'll back to talk about that. So be right back. The Instant Investor Program is our 12-week group coaching program, which includes a self-driven course and access to our private investor community. We will take you through the full process of how we find our leads, how we market, how we do our sales and follow-up, and how we determine the best strategy for every opportunity that comes our way. On top of that, you will also join a community of other like-minded investors nationwide that are all marching towards the same goals, and you will have direct access to Dan and myself so you can continue learning and growing with us as we continue to adapt and grow our business. So whether you're a new investor or already established, our systems can help take you to the next level. So if you think you might be a good fit, go to theinstantinvestorprogram.com and schedule a call, and we can have you talking to motivated leads in as little as 2 weeks. All right, guys. So networking when it comes to real estate investing, when it comes to the real estate business, it is all about not only who you know and who knows you. If you go and you like look at any sort of, like I would say like major, large stream, I don't know, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like the really big, really big like OG podcasts and stuff. They'll tell you, you know, go to meetups, you know, call around and find a realtor and let them know that they're going to be your realtor, right? You know, build your team and do all this stuff. And that is like the most boomer, antiquated version of building out your real estate network that has possibly existed. And as people,
the they're saying is important, which is the network. What network equals net worth is
correct.
Very important.
I think the concept is right. The execution is so 2012, and it is, you know, as people that I would say are pretty well connected in the real estate community, both locally and nationwide, the different groups we're in. Don't listen to those people. If you want to actually have meaningful connections and have connections where you make money and everyone's happy and you have respect and you're not just like a parasitic leech on these people, especially if you're starting out and they are used to being harassed, that is not the way to do it. So instead, the best way to do it, Dan, go.
Oof, gosh. The way, this is how I'm going to teach you guys how to make friends
and influence people, I hope too.
And I got partway through that book several years ago. I never finished it.
You read the title.
You definitely can't be operating any business like it was back in the old aughts at the turn of the millennia when the internet was still growing and its youthful stages. It's just different, right? The meetups, there are great meetups out there. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I know people that run meetups and I think those are great people. And I know their meetups are great. But generally speaking, a lot of meetups are, if you want to go and find other investors that are going to meetups because they can't find deals or they're trying to network, that's probably where you should go.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're going to find people that aren't doing anything like you. And then you can be around people that aren't doing anything. And then you guys can just do nothing
together, because the A players
do all nothing together and you guys can talk about it. Right. And not that A players don't show up or won't be there. They might be a speaker or whatever. There's still some connections there, but it's just not like, if you're following that model, it's going to take you a long time. And the network that you're building is so important. I think there's a couple ways to do it. Well, there's a handful of really good ways. One, the first one I always love, I think this is my favorite one, is do a deal.
Buy a house, 100%.
Buy a house from a wholesaler, do the deal, get a contractor, let them screw you over, still sell the house, tell that wholesaler you bought it and you sold it, and they're going to know all that sort of, they're going to see it, right?
Yep.
Because now you've got people in your network that you're actually working with, which is
exactly.
Really
and that is the number one way to get started. Absolutely. I mean, that's how I got started several years ago. I bought a house to flip when I had no business doing that. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. Took a risk, sure. Could have lost money. I made $4,000 over 4.5 months of work. Yep. Right. But we have an episode coming out here. I think it's gonna be next week, actually, with a new buyer who bought one of our deals back in January. And literally, this is what he did. He was a nobody in the real estate space, still is, but he's now flipped a house. And the way that went down is he had, followed me on Instagram. I knew him a little bit from beforehand. He shot me a message and he was like, "Hey, I really want to buy a house in the area." And I was like, "Well, perfect. We actually have a deal right now. We're looking to sell. Are you interested in this one?" And he said, "Sure." I was like, "Let's do it." I said, "You've ever flipped a house before?" He was like, "Nope." We're like, "Okay, well, this is going to be fun."
Exactly.
And so, but either way, he bought the deal from us. And then he brought in I think it was his brother or cousin who had a little bit of general contracting experience. And over the course of time, we'd made money because he bought the deal from us. And he was like, "Would you be willing to help coach me through this process?" And we were like, "Sure. Absolutely. Why not? We'll take you through it. Like, you've already shown that you're interested and you have value and all sort of stuff." And he did just about everything wrong that you could do. I'm not going to go into too many details, but you can listen to him talk about it himself here, like next week. And, but you know what? In the future, he wants to buy a deal. He wants connections, all that sort of stuff. We're happy to make those because we know that he's a go-getter. Like, he's going to get things done.
He's going to be a strong
He will
buyer.
represent us well. And that he's not like, there's not like a referral that we don't actually know is going to make us look stupid when he goes and, lets somebody down.
Right. Absolutely. Another way, which is also kind of a costly approach, because buying a deal does cost you money, right? Whether you win or lose on that deal. Another one I wanted to just throw out there really quick before we get into the other methods and get your opinion on is paying to be in a group, groups.
Well,
as far as using that to network and meet new people that are actually hustling and doing things that can add value to you.
Well, I think that's super huge, right? And, this partial plug for our group, when we have the Instant Investor Program, and that's a great way to get paid access to us, where you can get literally one-on-one coaching with us and, opportunity with us on a monthly basis and a weekly basis in the group, and then constant access to the group. But looking way back when, we initially got started in this business by joining a different group, and we made connections in that not only have given us education, but we've made money with these people. We've sold deals to these people. They've sold deals to us. We flipped a house. We flipped a house all the way across the country with one of these groups because we found the opportunity and they had the crews. And we're like, cool. Instead of paying us a fee, why don't we just flip it together? And we'll bring the money and we'll do this whole thing. Worked out great. Right. And we start to do that in, just a general, like a general group that's full of people that are wanting to get stuff done. You're going to start to get a reputation, and they're going to have friends that they tell them about you. They'll be able to make connections, whatever you're trying to do, whether that's, and as you're starting to grow your business, not even just about knowing realtors and knowing lenders, but they might have an accountant that can help you out. They might have a tax manager. They might have someone that can do cost segregations on your rental portfolio.
Yeah.
Literally whatever you need. The world becomes a very small place when you start bringing value to other people and showing that you can put that, that time and hustle in, that you're an A player.
Right.
So,
okay. So now let's maybe rewind a bit, and you're a new investor in that you haven't done anything, but you want to be an investor. Like you're like, that's it, I'm committed. And maybe you're not ready or don't have the ability to pay
capital,
to join a group or buy a deal. How do you at least find these people? If we're telling you don't go to the group where they all go to the watering hole in person, and we're saying that's not the best method, where else do they find these people that they can network with and eventually build strong relationships with, where they can provide hustle or knowledge or what have you?
So here's what you don't do. You don't reach out to that person and say like, hey, I'm a new investor. You definitely don't lie and say like, oh, hey, I'm an investor and I'm looking to expand my network, and let me take you out to coffee, or would you be willing to hop on a phone call? Would you be willing to, get on a Zoom or something like that? They might oblige if they're polite. Like I've definitely fallen into this, but there's not going to be a whole lot of mutual exchange there. And typically what's going to happen is they aren't really going to be that keen on helping you unless you guys really hit it off for some reason or another, which statistically you probably won't, just because how many
Mike probably won't like you.
That's not what I'm saying at all. I like most people, but like, I mean, I've had these conversations with new investors regularly where they, especially back when I was kind of in like the middle tier where I had kind of figured it out, but we weren't doing like big things yet. And I'd go meet with somebody and within 5 minutes, I'd be like, fuck, what have I done? Like I have to like now see
right. Well, there are definitely some folks out there that they're just not going about it the right way. Like if you honestly, personally, if you like shoot me a text or hit me up in a DM, like I'll at least give you a response. Absolutely. Or like time of day.
Like a DM's fine.
But like, yeah.
But if someone like wants to like take you out to lunch and you're not on the same playing field, it's not going to really be a good usage of your time.
Unless there's something which you would have to know the person ahead of time, unless there's some value.
Exactly. So that's what it comes down to is, the appropriate way to reach out to these people is like, hey, I'm a new investor. Like this is kind of what I'm trying to do. I recognize that you could be an expert in this. Like, do you have anyone that I could talk to about it? Or just like do it in some way where there can be a potentially mutually beneficial exchange of knowledge or connections or things like that. Whether you can like try to find them opportunities. Let's say maybe that you have been looking at opportunities on Zillow, or you've been connecting with lenders, you're connecting with companies and you've found stuff and that that's something that they're looking for because you've heard them talk about that on their social media or like, through the grapevine, and you can make that connection. Maybe there's like one of the key people and that they are really trying to figure out how to do a cost segregation on your, on their portfolio. You might be like, I don't even know what a cost segregation is, but if you can go and like connect with a company that does that and be like, hey, I've talked to these guys about it, that can, that might be able to help you out.
Yeah.
Like that at least like makes it more of an organic conversation instead of like, hey, would you be willing to give me free mentorship for like literally no reason?
Right. Yeah. I think recently, Jamie Gruber, the host of the Tribe of Millionaires podcast, which is a good podcast. He said this as far as like talking to guests and people, like if you were to want to be on a podcast, but I think you can relate this to the situation is, reaching out to these people and saying, hey, you added value to me for this reason. You said this, or I observed you doing this. You added a ton of value to me. I really respect that and want to know, how can I add value to you? Or is there something I can do to continue to gain value through a relationship with you? Something to that extent, I think would be pretty powerful. If you're trying to reach out to people within a sphere of influence that actually like in your maybe home market or something where you do want to be able to provide that tangible value to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's always tricky though, too, because if someone comes and says like, hey, how can I help you out? They're creating work for you. Like you honestly have to know what.
I think you got to be specific. And maybe that's my point, is getting specific, like identifying a specific thing about them that is drawing you in, and then identifying a specific thing of where you can add value.
Yeah, for sure.
Instead of just saying, I can hustle and I'll sweat for you. It's like, hey, I see that you own like 100 properties. Like, can I be the guy that goes in and installs lock boxes on all of them so that you have keys always and you never have to worry about a handyman not having a key.
Yeah. Stuff like that's great, especially if they're local. Anything like that is super big. Or maybe you know that they're an active buyer. Like if somebody came to us and said like, hey, I know you guys buy a lot of off-market stuff. I would love to do all your cash for keys for you. You know, I'd be like, absolutely. You know, like
what's my pain in the neck? Take that away from me.
Exactly. And you have to be educated enough to understand what those needs are, and then have enough gusto to be able to figure out how to provide that value, which isn't easy, right? Like I understand that's very sort of nebulous and very complex, but that's, you know, kind of what you have to do, you know, and if they're local, that's a way you can do it. And then if it comes to virtual relationships, you're trying to connect with people in other groups. Honestly, the easiest way is interacting. You know, like like if they're on social media and you've connected with them, like some of my favorite people are people that have listened to some of our podcasts, and they every now and then they just like shoot me a message and they're like, hey, I really enjoyed like this episode. You know, I had a question about this part. I'm like, sure, happy to do that. You do that like 3 or 4 times, you're familiar to me. Now, if that person comes and says like, hey, I had this deal I'm looking at, would you be able to take a look at it? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, we've built a familiarity, and you aren't basically coming in like asking me out while I'm, you know, don't even know each other yet. I've never even talked to
you. But I do think in going to those virtual watering holes where there are people, because there's a ton of Facebook groups out there, ton of people you can follow on Instagram or TikTok or wherever you get your social at. But like interacting within those groups, that's something I had to like learn myself, because that's not one of my natural instincts. You're a Reddit. I know you're a Redditor. And so places like that where you see where there are other folks within a group that you want to be part of is socially interacting with them and using those platforms for what they're meant to be used for.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you know what I think the best way is to do it? If you have someone that you know like really needs something, you go and say, hey, I found this really awesome resource about this topic. Here's this episode of the Collecting Keys podcast. I really think you should listen to it.
Those guys are so smart.
Those guys are so smart. They'll be able to help you out. No, but for real, when it comes to networking, and especially if you're trying to build business relationships, I think the biggest dilemma people have when they're getting started is they view networking as somewhere where they are going to grow. Networking should be mutual growth between the parties, right? And you need to be approaching it from a position of you are going to be bringing as much value to them as you're hoping to receive back. And that's true across, you know, real estate meetups, business networking, whatever you're doing. I mean, even like in GoBundance, you go to the GoBundance events, there's like everyone that qualifies for GoBundance has to have a high net worth, a relatively high income. They have to have a certain mindset. And you go to that, go to these meetups, and you can immediately tell who is there to collaborate and who is there to take. And tell you what, the people that are there to take, they do not build as good a relationships with the rest of the group as the people that are there to collaborate. You know, and so you have to be that collaborative mindset. And, you know, it's social skills. If you're not a social person, I'm sorry, bro, that sucks. Go get a high paying job and invest in syndications. Don't try to flip houses.
Don't try
it's a people business.
Hustle and grind. Yeah, it is a people business. So, and the value, and the reason why we're talking about it though, is that the value, like, I don't know how we would have gotten where we were at without the relationships we have.
We wouldn't have.
That we've built over time. So it's really hard to think about how you scale or do anything at any level in this business without networking and staying connected with people. What I see this, this is one of my gripes too before we transition, but is there's people that will like reach out to you and be like, oh, I really want to talk to you and meet with you and blah, blah, blah. And they do it once. It's like a one and done thing. It's like, it's not transactional. It's so some people treat it as transactional. It's like, no, it's a relationship. You know, you call and check in with people, you see how they're doing. You see, you know, when they have a deal or you have a deal, you're interacting with them and talking to them about things, as opposed to trying to make it so transactional. Like, hey, this transaction's done. It was great meeting you. I made a little bit of money off you. Now I probably won't talk to you ever again.
Yeah, totally.
I run into those people quite often. And it's super like, it's obvious. And then I try not to do business with them.
Yeah. Well, then the only time they reach out to you again is when they need something.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
But not even when it's a mutual exchange, like they're asking you for something.
I'm trying to find friends, damn it.
I mean,
dude, using me to make money.
Dude, I mean, business with friends is definitely way better. And if you do have friendly relationships with people, I mean, we have made multi 6 figures that has been gifted to us because we have had friends that have brought us in to deals that they need help with. I mean, even one of our main competitors, super good friend of mine, and he was trying to figure out a deal, couldn't get the seller locked down. Like the seller was, basically sick of talking to them. So he gave us the lead, gave us like the dirty background knowledge of the seller and his motivation. We went in and approached it as a cold person, flipped, got the contract, split a wholesale fee, and our total fee on that was $70,000. So we made $35,000 through that relationship that I had established. Through a relationship. Like it cost us nothing except for a bunch of great time and conversation I've had building that friendship. You know, totally. I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's many friends that would pay $35,000. They'd be a really good friend.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So, you know, we have lots of situations like that where so much things have happened because we provided mutual value from the start, and we've continued to provide value to each other over the past, you know, several years that we've been doing this business. Yeah. So I guess to loop it all the way around, don't just go to local meetups and be like a passive person. Don't go there and expect to like receive value from people. You got to connect with people, you know, bring them value, figure out what they need, and do it in a kind of an organic way, and just do it consistently over time. Like, you know, you don't expect anyone to just like want to do a flip with you after you talk to them one time. That's not how it works.
Yeah. And I like what you said there though, too, of like finding out what they need, because you might be like, well, what kind of value can I provide? I don't do anything. It's like, yeah, you might not know what value you can provide now, but you need to like be inquisitive and go to the watering holes and listen to what people need. And then you can find where you can provide value.
Yeah, exactly. So is it easy? No. Is it doable? Yes. And is it necessary? Absolutely. So, and like that one thing alone will be a major differentiator. And like people build whole businesses off that too. We have a guy right now that we've sold several deals to, who helps out with a couple of deals, who doesn't even like really run a business. He's literally just a networker, and he just has people that will do everything. And he's made $30,000-$40,000 off of us over the last few months.
Yeah.
You know, because he solved our problem. He knew we had deals, we needed buyers. He's like, I know everybody. And we're like, cool, find us a person. And we just figure stuff out. And then not only that, but once he finds the person, he's not like these freaking dispo shops that like just find a person and make you clean up the mess. He's negotiating cash for keys. He's making sure that the deals are closing. He's staying involved. He's getting through the escrow process. And you know what? Because of that, we will keep coming back to him and are happy to pay him money for that.
Totally.
So, you know, you got to be a value bringer. Well, right on, guys. Well, there's our rant. Let me step off my high horse here and wrap this thing up. Please do. Fuck you.
It's not. It's a pony, if anything.
Yeah, right. For you, short stuff. Anyways, guys, thanks so much. Thanks so much.
That's like an endearing. That's an endearing thing for you to call me.
I mean, I think you're my longest running friend at this point. Like, pretty close. So, thank you. Yeah, for better or for worse, I don't know.
I would say you're probably close. Like, yeah, we've networked well with each other.
We have.
We've provided good value back and forth for many years.
We have. Yeah, our initial value provided was we were both in the engineering program. We were like, you're not a complete loser.
Yeah.
Sure. And that was what we needed at the time. That was our need.
That was our need. We've provided value. That was a decade ago.
Yeah, longer than that.
Crazy.
Dude. Wow. I think it was 2010, 12 years ago.
Wow.
So
love it.
Well, anyway, guys, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, or even if you didn't, go and subscribe and share it with your friends. Even if you don't listen to it, just subscribe anyway. I don't care. Like, we just need to keep getting up the rankings. But share it with people that you think would get value from it. Go ahead and follow us on Instagram. I'm at Mike_invest. Dan is at InvestorMan Dan. If you want to learn how to bring value to us, or learn how to invest the way that we have and build, a fat portfolio for yourself and make a large income from finding off-market deals, go to the instantinvestorprogram.com. It is a group coaching program, but also has a tier now where you can learn one-on-one directly from us in a direct meeting where we will literally sit with you and coach through the whole process directly. So instantinvestorprogram.com, check that out. And then besides that, guys, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next week.
See y'all next week.
Thanks for listening. Please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out at collectingkeyspodcast.com for tips and guides on starting your own real estate investment and wholesaling business.